welcome back to the Gear of the Beloved YouTube channel. Today we have Chris, and we are in lovely band space. We'll get a sweet pan shot for you guys. White Noise Vision's freaking headquarters of band practice times. So, yeah, we're going to go over their rig and have them kind of tell you all about it. Boom.
Hello. We've gone through a few iterations of inner rigs. There's a lot of different channels that kind of go through various things with some of the standard equipment that we've used, but we've pared down for multiple iterations. We had two separate units that were just a bear to lug around.
You had two of those behemoths?
We had two of them, yeah.
Two of those behemoths. Okay, y'all will see this in a second. I'll throw some B-roll over top. It's ridiculous. Two of these?
Two.
Can you say excessive? Can you say excessive?
Well,
I can.
One was one was wireless and guitar equipment.
Okay.
And then the other was just ears in our X32 setup.
So you had them split across.
We had them split.
Okay,
yeah.
so same amount of stuff.
Yeah.
It was just in two different racks.
Yeah, and there was another. So we get to it. There's another Fractal and another Matrix power amp.
Gotcha.
So
cool.
It
Sweet.
was a little more manageable, but given what stages you may play upon, there just may not be room for it. So it wasn't really practical, and it was a bit excessive. I agree.
Well, and the amount of stuff that these guys brought. Now they brought it. They brought it in gear and they brought it in energy, so it was worth it. It was totally worth it. Like you'll see some of the live shots. These guys killed it. It was awesome. But yeah, when I walked into band practice and saw the rig, and I was like, I was hired to hey, I'm gonna go do the sound for this. I'm gonna do all the PA rental, everything, and get it all dialed in and get it perfect. And walking in and seeing the rig, I was like, I got this. This is gonna be great. These guys know exactly what they're talking about. This is awesome, and I'm actually here to learn. So this is as much a nerd out session for me as it is for you guys. All right, let's get after it. Let's go.
So about the rig. Furman power, a higher end power unit. There's a lot of expensive equipment in there, obviously. So we wanted to get a higher end, just like a DMC PL Plus. On our IEMs and our wireless, we went with the G4 like Sennheiser series, primarily because they're all networked, so we can actually quickly assign frequencies if there's issues as we move from location to location. So we're not struggling or have to go into individually, set different frequencies. So we can do it through software, and it's much easier. We've got a combiner, not really necessary the 2 units in here at the moment, but as we expand, we don't really have to worry about it. Plus, on the back of this, because there's a lot going on in the rig, it's less plugged into the Furman ultimately. We get into everybody's seen one of these, right? So we have an X32. We also have a S16 Snake. When we turn this thing around, you'll be able to see it a little better. On our wireless, just standard G4. I know there's a new digital setup that's slightly better, newer. I don't know about better, but newer. Pros and cons. Just a drawer for things as we travel. Just extra body packs, microphones, etc. And then I have my guitar stuff in here as well. So I've got my Fractal FX3 with a 1U Matrix power amp, but otherwise it's pretty compact, and there's a lot going on in the back as well, which we'll talk about when we turn it around. So we each have our own mix, which is pretty awesome. So the beauty of this is we don't have a bunch of wedges on the stage that are subjective to whoever's running sound that night, right? So our ears are always the same every time we play, regardless, and that's pretty much the beauty and why you want to run an in-ear monitor system, right? But I have my own mix. Our singer has his own mix. It's funny because we're pretty similar. Our bassist who plays with us when we do live shows has his own mix. And of course our drummer, has his own mix. So we're able to basically customize this, whether it be on the laptop here, or we could do it on our phone, or we can, if you take a look at my drummer setup over here, he's got a iPad over there, so you can adjust. And as Alaric, when you mixed us at the last show we played with you guys, you're able to do it off a iPad the entire time.
Yeah, these guys made it super easy to do sound for them. Crazy pro level. It was way nice. Now, Bridge the Gap, the other band, I do sound for them a lot. I know their mix extremely well. I was there from writing the album all the way through, listening to the cool rough tracks. It was awesome. I know how Bridge the Gap wants to be portrayed as far as a band. I did not know how White Noise Vision wanted to be portrayed as a band. So in having this rig come to the show with us, I had no idea how these guys wanted to be portrayed. They said, hey, I need this many channels. Okay, cool. So I came to a band practice and saw how the rig was set up, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be freaking great. I'm super down to do this. And after learning a little bit how they run theirs, this is kind of the new industry standard. They're professional that they hired to build it. super well known in our area. Guy knows what he's doing, and it shows. It made this super seamless. So hopefully we can take you guys along the ride and show you each piece of gear, why it was done that way, and kind of move forward for how the band wants to be portrayed and put forward. So this is a first step in having your craft honed before you ever hit this stage. That's super important. So yeah, we'll dive back in.
So as Larrick mentioned, our buddy Brian Grella, he runs, front of house for a lot of the main venues and national bands, like multiple bands monthly, right? It's funny because when he came back and helped us kind of reassemble this, it looks a lot like 9 out of 10 bands that are coming through all the main venues every month. So as we talked about the individual channel or individual mixes that we're able to facilitate here, there's also, whatever your DAW of flavor is. A lot of them have different live show opportunities. I use Personas at the moment. We have Logic as well. The band we use, Personas or Logic primarily, and we just build out our live shows. And we'll be hearing that in a second, where you can hear kind of the cue in, so like a count in, or even telling you what name it is, or you could say something clever to break character, have people crack up. Nobody hears it but us. So the beauty of what's going on in our ears is nobody but the band hears it, right? What's being pumped out the front of the house is totally different. The other thing we do, which is kind of more lo-fi, is we just have like a inexpensive setup to basically test some of our backing tracks, just to make sure we've got good parity as far as levels are concerned, so that we're not, blasting out some weird frequency. And as we rehearse, we run it, so we know what's happening, we hear what's happening, and it's pretty refined by the time we actually play live. So let's talk antennas. There's a lot of different options here. More often than not, we just, for our combiner on our ears, are running a directional antenna blade that's just kind of off stage, so it hits everyone. So if we're moving around, we don't have to worry about getting a crappy signal. And then for our wirelesses, we just have some half waves off the back. And when we turn the rig around, you'll be able to see, I could actually do the same thing with the directional antenna, and we could actually put other antennas on either side of stage if we wanted to. But for the size venues they're playing at the moment, it's completely adequate. That's antennas. So here's the back. There's a lot going on in the Badongadong. You can see the back of the X32 rack. So what we've got going on is we've got a splitter. So basically what's happening is a lot of the drums that aren't coming in from our wireless, all the inputs that are not from our actual wireless, as the guitar, the vocal mic, the bass even, are coming in to this 24 channel splitter basically that has two tails. So one tail is coming up. You can see, the inputs are going into the back of the X32, and then we have an X16 splitter snake, which basically acts as an extension to the X32 rack to allow for, we're using 24 channels, we could use 32 technically. We have different outs from the inside of the X32 as well as the back of the X16. So it just basically expands, outputs and inputs ultimately, right? The splitter, what's awesome about that, like you were mentioning earlier, our buddy Brian Grella, who helped rebuild this version 2.0, he does front of house, like I said a minute ago, for a bunch of national bands all the time. That's what he does for a living. And what this is what most bands bring. One thing we looked at, we could make a custom splitter, but it was like $1,200 or something ridiculous, a bunch of Mugami and Neutrik connections, and the seismic is completely adequate, and a lot of the national bands are using this exact same setup. So what ends up happening is, so as it splits, we have, a 5 foot going into our, X32 and the S16 extension, and then we have another set of tails, 24, tails, and we just say to the front of house engineer, here you go, with layout, which we gave Alaric to basically say, this is the inputs, this is what it is, and even gave Alaric or whatever front of house engineer the actual levels if we wanted, right? But again, that's going to adjust based on the size of the room and who's in it, etc. So beyond that, we add a little splitter, a patch panel rather, so we could run the wires to the rear to add our half waves. I've got, just an input here that, goes back down to our, just a Google router with just a HP switch that allows all our devices to talk to each other. We got basically a little local area network and allows everyone to connect and do various things from iPads, etc. The other input here, so I brought up from the X32 again to connect to a laptop to basically allow us to use it as an audio interface. This additional port is just to when I have to update firmware on my Fractal, it's just easy. This actually goes back to my Fractal as well for my FC 12-foot controller. If I'm running stereo, which is a lot of gear, more gear than we got, I could run another, 4x12 cab or 2x12, whatever I want to do, depending on the venue. And then right now I'm just running to my Orange 412 here, and then just again another half-wave antenna. So we could literally connect to these and have other, larger antennas if we needed it in a different setting. If this thing was back behind, multiple bands that have been backlined, you may need to do that. Going further down, I mean, there's really not much more to say here. There's just a lot going on. So, if we needed to get to things, it's not optimal because we have to pull stuff out to get to it. But we're more like set it, forget it. On the X32 software, we basically back it up so we don't have to worry about it. If we screw something up, we can reload it. It's not an issue. So that is the back of the Orphan.
Let's talk about some tail, y'all. Let's talk about some tail. All right, so they sent me a diagram with their relative gain levels, how they wanted everything labeled. It made it really easy to kind of make the show go as smoothly as possible. So we'll talk about the tails that they gave me to run the show.
Here you go. 24. I mean, look, there's different ways to do it. Some bands will just have like a couple overheads, maybe a kick. Our logic was different. Again, our buddy Brian, he's like, look, if you're opening up for a bunch of national bands and however many microphones the house has, if you're Verse, you get what they got. So we have decent microphones, and it just made sense to bring our stuff. You'll see in a minute on Eric's kit, it's pretty much, other than overheads, everything's kind of on his rack, so we can just get it on and off quite easily. And, we know it's going to sound rad because we have better mics than probably the C-level microphones from the 4th or 5th band from the house mics, right? Now, as we're establishing ourselves further, it's just nice to have our own equipment because we know it's going to be consistent.
Yeah, you guys really brought it. Like, you made it super seamless. Like, it was super nice. Working with these guys was great. That's how all bands should be. As a front of house engineer, that for sure, fantastic. Everybody shows up this prepared. I got you. I'm gonna make you sound great, and hopefully I can make you sound how you want to sound. So I think I achieved that at the show. We'll throw some B-roll clips in, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. So let's go over the overall how their in-ear monitor is fed into them, how they craft it with like how the mics are all on the drum kit. We're going to talk about that next. And then we'll go and actually listen to some of the cues, some of the backing tracks that they play with, and actually hear what they are going to hear in their mix and show you why it's just so nice. So nice. Just getting cues, freaking so nice. Can tighten up any band. So yeah, if you want to invest the time and the resources into this, like you can take your band to the next level. So that's what it's all about. All right, let's do it.
Microphone check. Drum microphones. Starting on the Piccolo, it's a SM57. We've got a 81 condenser on his hi-hat. We've got two 57s, a bottom and a top snare on his main snare, which is the Black Beauty. We got 604s, Sennheiser 604s on the 4 toms. For overheads, we have Rode NT5s, a match set, and then on his ride is another 57. In the kit, which is cool, we actually have you drilled holes in your drum kit or in your kick shell. So there's a Beta 52 and a suspension harness, and then there's a Shure Beta 91 boundary mic. So talk about what you're doing, buddy.
To elaborate on the kick drum mic, which is probably one of my favorite things on this kit as far as microphones, I drilled 2 holes into the kick drum to put the XLR jacks, so all you have to do is hook the cords up to the kick drum and you're off and running. One of the coolest things about that is, I don't know if any of you, or I'm sure all of you drummers, have been on stage, and especially if you're not on a drum riser, you're on a small one, having that stand right in front of your kick drum gets kicked a lot, and that's just a problem. Problem for you, problem for the sound guy, problem for everybody. So that relieved all of that, and you never have to worry about it ever. As far as the rest of the mics, when we set up on stage or set up off stage, I have all the clips on, everything's ready to go. All the stands are on the rack, they're all mounted. So, it's pretty seamless. All we got to do is get this thing up onto the stage. It takes like 3 guys, and we just hook these things up, and we're ready to go within 5 minutes. That's been my motto forever: is be ready in 5 minutes, no matter how much you got to do. So, with that
Can confirm 5 minutes, maybe 6. Seriously.
getting into the nitty gritties of the drum set, some of the things that's really important to me, and I know it's important to other drummers, are expendables, like sticks. The guys at Collision Drumsticks, they make some of the best sticks I've ever had. I teamed up with them, I don't know, about a month ago, and they've been great to work for. Also cymbals, I've teamed up with the people at Soultone. They've been really good to work with, really bright cymbals. They have a giant selection. You should check them out sometime. And then going over to the drum set as a whole, I have an Orange County Custom. It's made of birch. It's really loud and attacky. It's really good for metal. Depending on the head selection you use, it can be softer, it can be louder. Right now I'm using the Evans G2 heads. And as a more detailed note, these dampeners are extremely important for overtones. I know with the studio and even live, if you have a lot of overtones on your drums, it really sucks for the sound guy. It really sucks for the recording engineer. So you can make their job a hell of a lot easier by just using these little M80 pads, and it makes all the difference. It really does. Going into my setup, I play an Orange County Custom Birch, as I just said. My tom selection's 10, 12, 14, and 16. I have a 20-inch kick, and then I love the crack of a good snare drum, so I went and purchased a Ludwig Black Beauty, and also like a lighter option, a little poppy option, you know, for some different kind of sounds. So I have a Pearl Piccolo that I've chosen. But other than that, that's pretty much it. I did get into electronics a little bit, and I have a Roland trigger pad that I use. It's wired around the kit to come over here, so I can have 808s, I can have any kind of sounds that, you know, I don't have live, and it actually sounds pretty good, pretty solid. You can do cymbal selections, different drums, you know. I use it mostly for 808s and booms and things like that. I also have a analog click, if for lack of a better word, a metronome basically. So if this rig does go down at any point, I fire this little thing up. I've got it pre-programmed for all my clicks, and we can just keep rocking the show if necessary. So with that being said, that's my setup.
Guitars. So I have, for reference, I mean, this could be whatever. As I mentioned, the back of the splitter, the patch panel, I could run two 412s or two 212s. I just have played Mesa forever. I'm pretty happy with the orange 412. Got a live-in from our buddy Roger from Anvil. He also got us a guitar boat and the actual rig itself, all from Anvil. Really super convenient. We play in a couple different tunings, so of course we need a backup guitar for each tuning, so not having to pack around like 4 guitar cases is awesome. Plus, it's also a guitar stand we're on stage, and this is actually stage right when you see the video. It's super convenient. Fractal, it's just awesome. It lives in the rig. I've got a Matrix 1U power amp. I got a FC 12-foot controller with 2, global EV1 expression pedals, and I mean, it's just whatever you want, right? I mean, a lot of people have analog amps. I played analog amps forever. And the modelers are just, I mean, Metallica uses them, right? So I'm using an Ingle Savage, preset that I've modified slightly, and it's fantastic. Not only does Alaric, mix Sound Killer and have a, rad YouTube channel, but he's also guitar tech. No, I'm kidding. So this is actually one of my mains. We play in 2 tunings, E flat drop D or C sharp. And what I did is I bought this Arctic Metal guitar from Evertune directly, and actually this guitar does not come with an Evertune bridge, so they installed that. And then I took, no offense to EMG, I played EMG forever, but these are just Fishman Fluence and Evertune, right? So this is one main. The other is more of a Tele version of this. So this one actually came with an Evertune in it. The only thing I did different was to swap out the Fishmans again. I pretty much play exclusively ESP LTDs. For stage performance, my Save Queens, my E2s, and my ESP proper stay home. But for practice and for shows, these LTs are fantastic. So like the Arctic Metal, this is just it's like a Tele body, just a matte black. And this pretty much came stock. The one thing I did do is I had my luthier put lumen lay dots. All my guitars have lumen lay dots, which is super awesome. and I swapped out the pickups for Fishman's. This is a Ken Susi special. I played this on stage. This guitar is pretty much stock. This guy's like the Fishman, main. I don't know if he's a sales guy or whatever. He's the main, voice of the people for Fishman Fluence, modern, and all the different band specific. I think there's like a Kill Switch version. There's a bunch of different versions.
So we have several of these sets in different guitars in our studio. You guys have seen them on the channel. We have Kill Switch Engage, Tobin Abasi set, and the Fishman Moderns in different guitars. I think there's one other set, but Will Adler. We have a Will Adler set in something. I don't know what it's in, but it's in something. It's in something. But yeah, they sound freaking good. They're super clear, really responsive. And the more accurate of a player you are, the better you're going to get along with active pickups, because the attack and everything is so precise. You got to have your homework done and be a practiced guitar player to play active pickups, or it's going to make your mistakes way in the front.
Wow.
Way in the front.
And with the ears are unforgiving, so, which is good. It'll keep you honest, right? But the only thing I did different from this Susi model is, again, Luminlay dots. And then I don't know. I mean, look, they got to have a price point for quality, right? And I like the Korean LTDs, especially the signature models. And this one is super rad out of the box. But I just added some locking tuners and some Luminlay dots. Otherwise, this thing's factory.
I sell a bunch of them. They're an awesome guitar for all sorts of different, like, heavier stuff, drop tune stuff, guys that want to explore, like, really low tune stuff. It's got a long enough scale length to really handle a lot of that. So does a good job. Now, with the Evertune on, you got to be somewhat careful what tuning you want to do. It's got to stay there. So just go from there.
Right, and that's why there are two different tunings for drop F songs. I just use the modeler and detune it. And this is just a Sir Headley, and it's just a really beautiful guitar. It came stock with everything I like about it. Right, so it's got an Evertune, it's got the Fishman Moderns, it's got Luminlay dots, it's got the locking tuners. I mean. So for what I do and what I like to do, I use these DiMarzios just because they're just easy, to get on and off. And what is it? I don't have it on this one, but it's basically like a Levi like body pack carrier for my wireless unit, and it's pretty stock. I mean, I've got a E2 baritones and ESPs at home, mostly like the M series ESPs. But for jamming and for live shows, like these are fantastic. And if one of them went missing, any of them are replaceable. So
yeah, it's not like it's a $4,000 custom guitar. And that's one thing that I kind of harp on my channel is if you're not getting paid enough for the gig, do not bring your most expensive piece of gear. Like, what are you thinking? Like, just like the guitar player wanted to bring the Analog Man King of Tone. No, you're out of your mind. No, that's not leaving the studio. Sorry, don't care. So, Perfect Mindset, E2, Safe Queens. Regular LTDs, freaking totally proficient. They play phenomenal. That's why a lot of guys go and have become kind of the workhorse of the metal industry because they play good, they sound good, they feel good, and away you go. And an Evertune makes it so much easier on stage to not worry about having to retune. It's 100% stable. Takes a little bit to learn the curve of an Evertune, but super beneficial. And any major studio that you walk into to do it, if you don't have your guitar like perfectly set up and it's going to stay in tune, they will probably have you retrack with an Evertune. Like that's
right. So speaking of Fishmans, I also use SLS Elite Schecter when I tracked all the bass. We use MIDI on the new EP. But when I'm writing bass tracks, I have an actual bass, and I'm playing the actual bass, and that also has Fishmans in it. So there's just, like, it pairs well with the modelers. So with the Fractal, or if you're a Kemper guy, that's fine too, right? I mean, they're all, or what's the other one? Quad Cortex.
Quad Cortex. They're all the same.
They're all similar.
They're all
right?
same.
I'm a Fractal guy, but still, with the Fishmans, you can get pretty much what you want sonically. And then I just have like for E flat drop D or C tunings, it's basically like a Fender P bass, American made P bass. And then I just write them in MIDI then, and we go and track. But we usually have a friend of ours or session player play with us right now. We're just a 3-piece, and we bring the bass, just to have the presence on stage. And our buddy Ricky, you'll see in the show, is just a wonderful dude.
Yeah, they all brought the energy. That's for sure. They hella brought the energy. So, yeah. All right. Okay. Cool. Sick guitars, dude. Yeah, this has been a hell of a journey, man. Dude, thank you so much for inviting me over and being willing to show this freaking rig rundown. Like, dude, this is awesome. And there is a barrier of entry to understanding a rig like this, but having one put together by a professional that they had done, like, and you don't have to learn that much. So,
No, I mean, like,
yeah, walk
you
us
just-
through, like, kind of how it is to drive this thing for you. Like, not being a super tech nerd like I am, like, how is this for you?
I mean, we can focus on the music and writing and playing, and that's what matters really the most. For us, it just works. There's a lot of, like we were talking about earlier, you know, you can just back up settings and can restore it, and, you know, you're back to cruising altitude.
Oh,
right?
it helps so much when you want to tweak something, see if something sounds better, and literally you can save the next scene, and you can go back and A/B them. Literally on the fly, A/B, this mix, this mix, this mix, this mix. Oh, we like this one better? Cool, we're going to go with that. So it just helps you take that next step forward in your musical journey and being in a band. And this technology and this setup goes for any type of band, whether you're bluegrass, country, blues, rock, heavy metal, doesn't matter. It's completely limitless. That's what's so cool about this.
Well, I appreciate you, buddy, and thanks for coming out. Nice job on the mix. People clearly enjoyed it, so right on.
Hell yeah, that means I did my job. I made him sound good. I did my job.
You
All
did.
right, hear the beloved out. Peace.
This is an Evertune. Well, I'm sorry.
Let's go. Yeah. I'm like an addict, do I gotta have it. I
Man,
ain't
we're
even
going
playing,
through
got a
the
really bad
guitars,
habit. If it
man.
moves, gotta grab it. Fuse like a magnet, lose, won't have it till I'm doomed in a casket. I ain't playing, got a weird mind.
Check,
If you work
microphone.
8 hours, I'ma
No,
work 9.
cones of
If
ice
something
cream.
tastes sour, you should taste
Microphone
mine.
fiend.
I'ma stay in power for a long time.
So, in
Quit
addition
up, nah, I ain't a
to
quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer.